Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hadeel and Rahal, and I've been working at the American University of Sharjah since 2003, and I'm an MA TESOL alumni from the same university. Welcome to our online virtual presentation, which will include COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on our academic writing classes. Does Google Docs have roots in the literature? Word document or Google Docs? Disadvantages of Google Docs? Sample of students' feedback, action research initial methodology, experimental research proposed methodology, and at the end we will open the floor for audience feedback and questions. COVID-19 confinement shocked the ordinary across all life aspects, including education. The sudden shift in the class delivery mode due to COVID-19 brought with it innovative pedagogical and teaching ideas. As academic writing teachers, our main goal was to maintain our interactive relationship with our students as well as the interactive writing techniques followed inside the classroom prior to COVID-19, such as peer editing and office hours conferencing. After exploring the wide range of online writing applications which could contain the interaction nature of our academic writing tasks, as well as our interactive relationship with our students, Google Docs met all our soul needs. More features of Google Docs and its advantages from the practical point of view will be discussed by my colleague Huda later in this presentation. Does Google Docs have roots in the literature? It is believed that Google Docs can satisfy Zitkowski's 1978 Zono-Proximal Development Theory. ZPD refers to the differences between what a learner can do without help versus what a learner can achieve with guidance and encouragement from a skilled person. Such interactive manner of education inside the academic writing classrooms can be achieved via online dynamic assessment tools. Dynamic assessment tools are interactive tools providing learners and teachers with enough time and convenient space to work on the assigned tasks. Online dynamic assessment tools can be asynchronous mediated communication tools which allow users to comment, edit, and revise writing tasks at their own pace. Example of this is the Word document, or synchronous mediated communication tools which allow users to comment, edit, and revise the writing simultaneously. Synchronous mediated communication tools such as Google Docs are thought to support the Zitkowski's ZPD theory by providing synchronous collaboration between the teacher, a more capable person, and the learner, which is a less capable person. And now I will hand the floor to my colleague Huda to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Hadeel, for your informative summary. Now that you've discussed the theoretical discussions and the literature review around Google Docs, I would like to discuss the practical aspects of Google Docs from the classroom, specifically from the academic writing perspective. Now, of course, you'd think that Google Docs and Microsoft Word are very similar, especially that they are both writing apps that have tracking features. So how are they really different from one another? When a student works on a Microsoft document, he or she has to work alone, and then she has to share his or her work with us. And thus this process is not only asynchronous, but also quite monologic. Therefore, when they are done, they must attach their work and send it to us, which is unnecessarily complicating things. And I'm sure as a writing teacher that many students emailed you one night, if not an hour before the due date, asking you for more time because they lost their work, the file got damaged, something happened with the Microsoft Word document. And these are common problems with Microsoft Word. Now, finally, another disadvantage. Microsoft Word is non-traceable in the sense that the full editing history cannot be known unless the tracking changes is enabled, and often students don't enable it. Now, with Google Documents, it's a very different story. While a student can work at his or her own pace, he or she can be working together with the professor or his or her peers distantly. And here comes the idea of asynchronous and synchronous features. And it's important to have both features. After all, the student needs time to work alone and needs time for collaborative work or feedback. Now, not to mention that there is a live chatting feature when both people or participants are working on the document at the same time, even if they were working distantly. And there is a possibility to extend the comment to become an active discussion or a conversation between the writer and the teacher. And this does not need to happen online when both are online. And this is allowing us to move from the monologic to a more dialogic process. Now, the students and the commentators, us, the professors, will receive an email every time a thread has been added to the comment or a change is accepted or rejected. And it will allow us to reply to the students to know what comments the students accepted and what comments the students rejected. And this is very important for writing professors because comments are no longer imposed on students. They become responsible. They are more omnipotent of their own work. Now, of course, after all, once a student is done working and sharing his or her work with the professor, he or she may download it to become a normal Word document. Now, you'd think from the following discussion that these are too advantageous, that there are no possible disadvantages to using Google Docs. And this is, of course, not very accurate. One of the main, not the main problems, but Google Docs is relatively new and many students are not familiar with it. Now, it doesn't take a lot of time to discover or navigate through the documents, especially that many features are very similar to a Word document. There may be some sharing issues. If students share the document with the wrong recipient, there will be a few problems. If the students assume that, we shared our document with you, that you will be looking at our documents, this is where, they are wrong or mistaken, because we often have more than one student, and it's impossible to go through the Google Drive every time to check on students' work, unless if the student initiates the invitation to edit. When this happens, of course, now students have to initiate this. And when this happens, you may wake up to a rain of emails from students, especially if they initiated the invitation to edit more than once. And this becomes very overwhelming. Now, another disadvantage concerns the new update. Unfortunately, with the new Google Doc update, we can only see the editing history without the comments history. And this is indeed very unfortunate because previously we could see the full history, even when a student accepted or rejected the comment. Finally, when you edit a document to delete the extra space between paragraphs, students sometimes think you're asking them to delete a paragraph or add a new one because the comment that appears on the document does not highlight that this is a formatting issue. And this is something, of course, that can be, easily highlighted to the students by telling them, making them more familiar with Google Docs at the beginning of the class. Now, despite these disadvantages, Google Docs are still way more powerful than Microsoft Word. In fact, by surveying the students' feedback, many students reflected quite positively on the use of Google Docs, even though I had never asked them straightforwardly to talk about or directly to talk about their feedback on using Google Docs. Initially, back in the spring 2020, students had to work on a peer assessment. When we were on campus, we didn't have any issues, of course. With the outbreak of the pandemic and our transition to distance learning, I either had to cancel the peer assessment assignment or to find a convenient way to go about it distantly. And this is when I discovered, I had to literally go out there and explore the different apps, and I discovered Google Docs. In spring 2020, when I used it for this assignment, only one student, funny enough, reflected on the use of the Google Docs. When I discovered the numerous advantages of Google Docs, I decided to force students to use it with all their writing assignments in the following terms. And most or many students had reflected quite positively on the following use. And this is where we are planning to move beyond this action research into the experimental research. I would like to further advance the research in the fall if we go back to campus to understand the true impact of Google Docs in the classroom as a tool to be used for effective feedback and one for formative assessment. And to do so, our plan is to ask the students or to answer the question, did students find Google Docs helpful to improve their writing skills? Now, of course, to address this question, the plan is to hand them out a survey at the beginning of the course, asking them several questions related to their knowledge with Google Docs, if they have any, and then a post-assignment reflection after each assignment, and they will be working on 3. I will ask them to write a post-assignment reflection for the first 2 assignments. The first one, I will not be using Google Docs for the first one to give feedback on the process work. As for the second one, I will be giving them or asking them to use Google Docs to give them feedback. And I will ask them to write a reflection on their experience, whether they found it quite helpful, and of course, another survey at the end of the course to reflect on using Google Docs. And this will should allow us to understand how helpful students found Google Docs to be. Thank you a lot for